Once upon a time, in the land of handsome princes, noble kings, and beautiful princesses, there also lived a wicked witch, a wily wolf, and a ginormous giant. Deep in the forest was the vilest of all, a wicked witch, who casts another evil spell. Will Rapunzel be rescued by her Prince Charming? Find out in this story of wolves, witches, and giants called Rapunzel. Many years ago, in a small village, a man lived with his daughter. Her name was Rapunzel. A name she hated because everybody teased her. Oh, why couldn't I be called Diana or Sarah or something, she cried, thinking one day she might meet a prince and such a name would come in handy. Quiet, Rapunzel, shouted her father. We are very poor and can't possibly afford a fancy name like that. They lived next door to a wonderful garden full of vegetables and fruit, but unfortunately it was owned by a witch. Poor Rapunzel was made to steal vegetables from the garden because her father had no money for food. So every night Rapunzel slipped out of the house and into the garden. Carrots, yum, yum, she whispered to herself. Cabbages, yuck, I wouldn't be needing... You won't be needing anything where you're going, called a chilling voice behind her. Rapunzel slowly turned round and came face to face with the witch. What is your name, child? Cackled the witch. Rapunzel, came the terrified reply. A perfectly delightful name, continued the hag. Why, I would have called you that myself. So, Rapunzel, you shall come with me to my tower in the middle of the forest. But first, I must put a spell on you. Cauliflower pastry, treacle and jam, the wickedest witch in the world who I am. In a flash, Rapunzel found herself in a tiny bare room with only one window atop a 100-foot tower. As she looked out of her window in despair, she realized there was no door to the tower. She was quite alone. Over the years, when the witch visited her, she would call out from below, Rapunzel! Rapunzel! Let down your hair, Rapunzel! On hearing the command, Rapunzel would throw down her plait of beautiful golden hair, and the witch would grasp it like a piece of rope, then climb up the wall and in through the little window. Soon winter gave way to spring, and Rapunzel would imitate the birds. My man, said the farmer of the band, her lovely singing voice echoing through the glades of the forest. My man, said the farmer of the band, and don't dilly-dally on the way. One day a handsome prince happened to be riding by. The prince heard the wonderful voice drifting out from the top of the tower. He longed to meet the owner of such a beautiful voice. But as he approached the tower, he noticed that someone had got there first. He hid behind a tree and watched as the witch called up to the little window in the tower. Rapunzel! Rapunzel! Let down your hair, Rapunzel! The old crone climbed up, using the hair as a rope. So, this was the way to meet the beautiful singer. The next day he returned and called up to the window, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." At once the plait of golden hair cascaded to the ground, and the prince, copying the witch, climbed up the tower. As he clambered through the window, he drew back in delight at Rapunzel's ravishing beauty and fell instantly in love. But the prince, being painfully shy, couldn't bring himself to ask for her hand in marriage, or any other part for that matter. The words simply stuck in his throat. Embarrassed, he fled and vowed he would ask her the next time. Early the next day, the prince found himself again in Rapunzel's tiny room. Steeling himself to pop the question, he stammered, fleeing from the tower. The next visitor to the tower was the witch, who hurt Rapunzel by tugging too hard on her hair. "Oh!" cried Rapunzel as the witch climbed in through the window. "The prince is much less clumsy with my hair than you are." Her voice trailed away as she realized that in her pain she had given away the secret of the prince's visits. "So," sneered the witch, "you've been having visitors, have you?" And in an instant she cut off Rapunzel's beautiful hair and spirited her away to a lonely cave on the edge of the wood near Edgware. The witch remained in the tower, awaiting the visitor who had been deceiving her. Sure enough, she soon heard a voice, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." The witch attached one end of the hair to a strong hook and then threw the plait to the ground below. This time the prince was so determined to ask Rapunzel to marry him, he was hardly through the window before he blurted out, "Rapunzel, I love you, darling. Will you marry me?"
"Oh, yes, please."
The prince was so shocked by the ugliness of the witch that he jumped from the window. Closing his eyes and vowing he would never open them again till he heard Rapunzel's voice, for years after, he wandered aimlessly, calling out for his love. He had almost given up in despair, when one day he heard the beautiful singing once again. "My man, said the father of the band, and don't dilly-dally on the way." By pure chance, he had come to the edge of the cave in Edgware, where the witch had hidden Rapunzel all those years ago. As they fell into each other's arms, he opened his eyes once again. They set off at once for the prince's kingdom, where they married and settled down in a huge palace in London SW1 and lived somewhat unhappily ever after.